Hi guys, I Aziz welcome you to CoedMaster. In this video, I am going to talk about setInterval function in JavaScript. We will learn what setInterval function is, what it does, how it internally works, and then we are going to implement the setInterval function from scratch. So without wasting any time, let's get started. Alright guys, so let's understand what setInterval function is with a simple example. So here let me write one function, hello, and this function is going to console one message for us, and the message is going to be hello. Cool. Now let's use setInterval function. This function expects two arguments. Number one is the callback function. In this case we are going to use hello as a callback function, and the second argument is the delay. So in this case we use 1000 milliseconds, which is equal to 1 second. Okay, so when we call setInterval function, in return it's going to give us a unique timer ID that we can store in a variable with the name timer ID. Now what is the purpose of this timer ID? We can use the timer ID to stop the interval. Okay, let me show you how we can do it. So we can again use the setTimeout. Okay, after 5 seconds we are going to stop this interval. For this we can use clear timeout function and passing a timer ID to clear timeout function. Okay, so this is the code. Now let's save the file and let's run the program, and you can see that the output is coming in the console. So the hello is printed after every interval of 1000 milliseconds. So the 4 hello got printed, and after 5 seconds we clear the timeout and the setTimeout internally stops. So what basically setTimeout is doing here, it is taking the callback function from us and then it is scheduling the callback function to be called after every 1000 milliseconds. Great. So what is the purpose of this setInterval function? So we can use setInterval function in many scenarios where we need our function to be called at a regular interval. In that scenario we can simply use the setInterval function. Excellent. So now we will see how setInterval actually works behind the scenes, because I see many misconceptions among developers that setInterval function executes our given function at a specific time interval, but that is not actually true. So let me show you what a setInterval actually does behind the scenes. So in JavaScript runtime we have two queues. Number one is the timer queue and second one is the task queue, or we can also say it a macro queue. So what happens when we call setTimeInterval? So when we call setTimeInterval for the very first time, it's going to schedule the callback function in the timer queue like this. Okay, and we all know that we have an event loop in our JavaScript runtime which continuously looks for new tasks in the micro queue, and also it looks for the timer queue. So after 1000 milliseconds is passed, what happens, the event loop is going to take out this task from timer queue and it's going to put this task in the task queue, and then it's going to pick up the oldest at most one task from the task queue and it's going to execute it like this. So this is what happens when we call setInterval function of JavaScript, and when the hello function is executed successfully, it's again going to schedule the same function in the timer queue like this. So this is how setInterval function actually works behind the scenes. It is not like that setInterval function is calling our function at a specific fixed duration. It is always scheduling our function in a timer queue. Okay, so far so great. So this is the right time where we can implement this setInterval function from scratch. So let's see how we can implement setInterval function from scratch. Okay, so first we have to define a function with the name mySetInterval. Okay, and this function is going to receive two arguments. One is the callback function and the second one is the delay. Cool. Now let's observe what setInterval function is doing. it is calling our function hello, and then again it is calling hello function again and again and again repeatedly. So what do you think? When we have this scenario where we call one function and then that function is being called repeatedly, don't you think it as a recursive function? Yes, absolutely yes. We can think of a recursion over here. So what we do in the recursion, basically we do like this. Okay, so we have a function, this function is going to call itself and then again it's going to call itself. This is what we do in the recursion, right? So let's say we have a function over here with the name repeat, and we call this function, and again in this function, when the execution of this function happens, again we are going to call the same function again. So this is a kind of recursion. The only challenge over here is, instead of calling function repeatedly, we have to call this function at a specific interval or after a specific delay, right? This is the only challenge here. So that is not a very big challenge. We can easily accomplish this challenge with the help of setTimeout. Okay, so here instead of calling repeat by ourselves, we can simply use setTimeout, and this setTimeout expects two arguments. One is the callback function. In this case we are going to use the repeat, and the delay. So we can simply pass the delay from this variable to here. Okay, and here also instead of calling repeat by ourselves, we can simply call repeat with the help of setTimeout. Excellent. But we also need to clear the setTimeout, right? So for this we need a one variable. So let's define one variable over here with the name timer id, and whatever timer id is returned by the setTimeout, we are going to store this timer id in the timer id variable like this. So far everything is fine. But we don't need to call the repeat function. We also need to call callback function. So what we can do here, we can simply call the callback function in the repeat function. As simple as that. Okay, and we need one more function to clear the timer. Okay, for that let me define one more function with the name clear. Okay, and what it does, it is going to clear the timeout for us. So we can use clear timeout and give it a timer id. Great. And then in the last we can simply return the clear function, so that user can use the clear function to clear the timeout. Okay, so I think the implementation is pretty much done over here. So we have a callback function, delay, we have a timer id to store the unique timer id which will be returned by the setTimeout. Here we have a repeat function for a recursive call. We cannot say the recursive call, but yeah, it's a kind of recursive call where we are taking help of setTimeout instead of calling by ourselves. Okay, we are storing the return value of setTimeout in the timer id. Here also we are doing this. Then we have function clear to clear the timeout, and yeah, everything is fine. Now instead of using the setInterval, we can use mySetInterval function by giving it a callback function which is hello function, and delay is 1000. It's going to return the clear function this time, not the timer id. So we can simply call the clear function over here like this, clear. Okay, format the code, save the file, and you can see the hello is being printed on the console, and after 5 seconds it stops. So we can see that our mySetInterval is absolutely perfectly working fine. So I hope now you have a clear understanding of how setInterval function actually works. So it's not like that it is calling function at a specific interval, rather it is scheduling our callback function to a timer queue, and then event loop is taking over it. Okay, so this is pretty much all about setInterval function in JavaScript. Alright guys, this is all from my side for this video. If you learned something valuable from this video, then please hit the like button in order to make YouTube algorithm happy. Please subscribe to this channel and don't forget to click the bell icon so my friend you never miss any upcoming videos. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.